Hello everyone, today I'm going to be doing a pretty straightforward Blood Moon Haste guide. Enough stalling, let's get into it. So first and foremost, as you can see, we have Blood Moon Haste here, and you can kind of see his stats that I have on him. But let's take a moment to talk about his base stats, what his kit is, and what the buff was to his, I guess I should say, the buff that made him now really strong. So first and foremost, if you take a look at his skill 3, it hasn't really changed outside of the fact that it doesn't really heal anymore, or it doesn't heal at all, rather. Instead, what you have is that now your skill 3 does more damage, or basically doubles in damage, if you have Blood Aura. It also revives your allies if you do manage to kill someone with your skill 3. But the way that you get Blood Aura is that when one of your allies dies, not only do you gain a speed buff, you also gain a pseudo mini effectiveness buff. Long story short, though, not only do you get the barrier now from your allies dying on S2, you can actually bring them back with your skill 3. And his S1 has now been changed to now basically strip and also activate an extra hit that does a lot of damage, actually, like a pretty considerable amount of damage, comparable to someone like Ravi or APOC Ravi. And it also heals, assuming that you manage to strip someone. Now, again, this is really impactful because formerly it was someone on your team or someone on the enemy team had a revive, rather, and that's when you could get the barrier. But now, as per the data mine and things like this, you still do gain a barrier when one of your allies dies now, but it's only 30%, which is technically, I believe, a nerf to what the original size of the barrier was. Furthermore, the S3 has been increased in damage a little bit, but from the math that I've kind of gathered, for a 24 to 23k HP-ish Blood Moon Haste, you're still doing roughly anywhere between 9 to, I think, 11,000 damage, doubled to that of about, again, 20,000 damage, assuming that you have the Blood Aura. So, in terms of then, I guess, relating to his game plan, what you're kind of looking to do right now is either use him as a S1 kind of anchor and killing things over and over, or you can kind of use him as someone that Uno reverses a team that kind of kills you. It does kind of make sense to try and one-shot the Blood Moon Haste first, which is why there are people that are running things like either counter, or they're running things like Idol's Cheer, which can kind of manipulate or mess with the ordering of things. But generally speaking, in terms of his game plan, from what I've seen and just from my showcases and the things that I've seen thus far, a lot of people are basically letting their allies die, and then boom, they'll use Moon Slash, revive them. They don't use any of the cooldowns on their allies prior, and then they get to basically kill the entire enemy team for free. Karina feels a lot more manageable now, especially with the third pick safe slot thing that they've added to RTA, but also because this S3 one-shots her. On the rare occasion that you are fighting I guess a Karina that has something like 20,000 HP, this doesn't kill unless if you have like a 30,000 HP Blood Moon Haste. But for the most part, even if the Blood Moon, or even if the Karina ends up reviving with the barrier, you can either strip the barrier with his S1, or, you know, strip with the S3 right now, because again, you also gain effectiveness, or you can just raw outright kill it, because it does, again, upwards of 20,000 to 22,000 damage. Now, again, in terms of the buff, it was really nice, but you may be asking yourself, because of the fact that I've already kind of lauded him as being kind of good, are his imprints impactful? Is the imprint concentration or the imprint release good? And the honest truth is that, yes, this is likely going to be a character that you do want to have imprints on, because he has double value. The imprint concentration is almost on the same tier as something like crit chance, because not only does the health for his imprint concentration double as survivability for him, it also doubles as his damage. Furthermore, if you take a look at the release imprint, it's attack percent. So if you are looking to pair him as a cleave anchor, which I and a lot of the other cleavers that I've seen so far have been pairing with him or been doing with him, you'll enjoy the 12.9% attack. And assuming that you are able to make use of at least 2 of the imprint, or at least, I guess, make use of the imprint release at all, you're gaining at least 25% additional attack, which is nothing to scoff at. That's basically half of an attack buff. Furthermore, if we talk about the build that I have right now on my Blood Moon Haste, there we go. I have about 25,000 HP, 2k defense, 210 speed and 100 effect resistance. I have seen other builds and variations of the Blood Moon Haste where they have basically my stat, but on counter, so don't take this as law, or don't even think that my Blood Moon Haste is upwards of what you can see. There are very ridiculous looking builds. I've also seen builds that have him on 30,000 HP. I just like having a bit of the defense, because if they're gonna be trying to one-shot him anyways, might as well make him a little bit tankier and make him annoying to deal with. But in any case, if you do want to run a little bit of effect resistance, that's fine. Although if you are starting or trying to play him as an earlier kind of player, in terms of what you could build for him, for my personal build, you can definitely remove the effect resistance, kind of just pray that you don't get stunned, maybe run something like Wondrous Potion Val, who knows. But I do think that the HP, the defense, followed by probably the speed is what I find to be the most useful, although I have seen people at a slower kind of 180, 170 speed. Going below that, though, I think you're going to start feeling the impact of not having speed, and then, of course, effect resistance is kind of luxury. It's nice to have it, but not super, super vital. Furthermore, if we're talking about sets, I do think that, as I mentioned before, having something like the counter set alongside HP set would be really nice. If you can somehow manage to find an immunity set or fit an immunity set on Blood Moon Haste, that could also be nice. That being said, though, I think it's much more luxury. I think that especially with the advent of Albedo and a lot of the super, super giga tanky knights, a lot of people are just opting for HP set, which is nice if you ended up deciding to farm for it during the Albedo event. However, if you haven't, using any set that you can to kind of bolster your defenses or your overall bulk, I think is nice. But again, speed or counter, I think, is his best in slot. If you want to run a triple set HP, I think that also works, but just keep in mind that you do want to be on the faster side. You can arguably run him on the 6 free HP sets if you're early on, because honestly, it looks like this character will work on anything. But if you're trying to optimize and use him for PvP, I do think that being faster would be nicer so you can get more S1s off. If we're talking about artifacts, I think there are a couple that work out for him. Of course, you could always run him on the tried and true portrait or the symbol of unity, as per what people used to run. But I do actually think that basically any artifact that increases his tankiness, whether that's Proof of Valor, the Water's Origin that I just showed, or even Idol's Cheer, can be really nice. Now, of course, you could always also run the standard Guardian Ice Crystal, which will increase the amount of healing that you provide to the team. But I do think that in general, providing tankiness for Blood Moon Haste himself is going to be more important. If you are, by some magic act of God, something like 30,000 HP with 2k defense, I don't even know how you would do that. But if you are super tanky and you aren't worried about dying, you can definitely consider other things like, again, increasing your damage, increasing the health of your team with water or with a Ice Guardian Crystal or Guardian Ice Crystal. And that also works, but for preliminary testing, I think that Water's Origin is pretty nice because it's a 4-star. Otherwise, Proof of Valor, because it's also technically free, could work as well. Now, in terms of whether or not this character is good for PvE or PvP, they did kind of change the way that he works. So in terms of that, you aren't going to be able to use him for things that involve reviving anymore because it would involve your team dying. That isn't to say that it was really working anyways. Prior, there was a bug where you could actually use Blood Moon Haste in things like Asthmatic or against certain Nightmare raids where things would revive. And I believe, I'm not sure if it was still the case prior to this exact patch in Asthmatic where you could do that. But I know in Nightmare raid, you could, I think, benefit from things reviving. But then I think they removed the interaction of that. I'm not quite sure, but point is, I don't think he's that good in PvE anymore, especially because they changed the way that his kit works. For PvP, though, I think he is an absolute monster. If you aren't building this Blood Moon Haste character, I seriously ask you to reconsider doing that, because, again, he can work on the 6 HP set. If you are going to use him on it, I'll just kind of show you what it would look like. It takes basically no effort whatsoever to put this gear on. It's the free 75 set that we get literally at the start of the game. And assuming that you have any of these things already equipped, or assuming that you aren't using this for Wyvern and you need to do Guild War, I mean, come on, guys, right? I mean, 150 speed, but you have basically the same stats as I do, but a little bit more HP. For Guild War, this looks pretty serviceable. In any case, though, you may also be curious about the synergies and the counters for this character. And I'll be honest with you, it doesn't really feel like, especially if you're using him as an anchor to your team, it doesn't really feel like he has too many counters right now. I would say, of course, that being unbuffable is a big issue. Fighting against Briar is also likely going to be an issue. However, I think that this is kind of one of these things where, similar to how a character like Knockwall, if you outspeed her, if you unbuffable her, also has issues, so does Blood Moon Haste. Now, of course, you do have to kind of also be careful of things like DJB, who can invert the barriers on your team, but it's not as cut and dry with Blood Moon Haste. Basically, the insinuation, if you are going to be using someone like Blood Moon Haste, or if you are going to be countering Blood Moon Haste with someone like DJB, is you have to one-shot someone on his team. Now, if you aren't familiar with the speed tuning of DJB, he's usually somewhere near the front, and unless if you have an assassin or something to activate and then boom, instantly activate DJB, it feels a little bit difficult to play the inversion composition. That's kind of the same case for Ning Ning, who, again, you would kind of have to one-shot someone else and kind of tune things in such a way that you can invert the barrier. And ultimately, even if you do invert the barrier, that's not stopping you or stopping Blood Moon Haste from just killing the target and then bringing back the characters that got inverted anyways. So, with that being the case, I do think that the synergies and the characters that I do really like with him, I think ML Politis is obviously going to pair well with everyone because ML Politis pairs, I mean, let's be real, guys. This S3 is absolutely broken. Giving rage to the entire enemy, or giving rage to your entire team, decreasing the speed of your allies, and allowing Blood Moon Haste to either make use of Blood Aura if he ends up activating it, or just making him more efficient in terms of turn cycling and being able to use his skill 1. Very, very impactful. Conqueror Lilius, also really nice. You can kind of tell where the trend of this is going, but it basically means that if you are going to be pairing Blood Moon Haste alongside a DPS, you can also probably pair him alongside someone like Conqueror Lilius. Now, instead of in the past pairing your DPS or your Spectre Tenebria or your Navy Captain Landy with someone like, I don't know, Ocean Breeze Lulica, or even someone like Amelia super long ago, now like a year or so ago, now you do have more offensive options, which is what a lot of characters or a lot of people are pairing. If you are running someone like Abyssal Eufiend, maybe you can find use with someone like Death Dealer Ray. And on that same kind of level, honestly feels like Blood Moon Haste fits in that exact same position. He's an offensive healer, and he does provide you some sort of protection and utility, but long story short, I think that Blood Moon Haste is going to be very good with the character, or with the characters that you're going to pair alongside, I guess, offensive damage dealers. And instead of, again, taking someone like Destina, who, again, even with the Brigitte artifact, may come back a little bit, or may resurge, or, you know, come back in viability, I still think that Blood Moon Haste reviving the entire team, having that insane nuke on S3, and kind of being a pseudo DPS while also having utility, makes him really good, and those are the characters that I think synergize best with him. Now, in terms of if this character is a must pull, or if you need to have him, you could start praying to get him through, I don't know, your daily free summons or things like that, I think the answer is, I'm going to say yes. Now, again, I've said this before about characters. He does look very good. He does look really strong. It is day one. However, I do want to preface that this is the early preseason. Not only are we not into the real season where you would have to, you know, pay attention to who's good, who's bad. We're not even, you know, we're in the beginning of the experimental phase of like the season where people aren't trying too hard. That being said, though, I do think that he has an absolutely bonkers stacked kit now. Your allies dying is not a super ridiculous win condition in order to activate a super insane S3 nuke that defense penetrates and also revives. I mean, like, how do you, like, I cannot even conceive the kind of character that you would need to create to stop a character like ML Haste from at least being good as a nuker, especially in Arena and Guild War. But I think he's a must pull. At least for now. If you haven't already gotten him, I would definitely build him if you already have him. But something that I also want to bring up here in a second as I switch over to record is a couple games actually that I ended up taking from a couple of my friends that are playing RTA right now. And I kind of just wanted to show off the strength of Blood Moon Haste and just how impactful he is, not only as a cleave answer, but also to anti-cleave. So let me get this up real quick. Okay, let me, where does this transform? Fit to screen. Okay, so, oh, why is this? Oh, wait. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, there is a match here where Blood Moon Haste doesn't really fit in. Like, if you think about it, Blood Moon Haste plus Pavel and Politis, I mean, like, what are we looking at here, right? Well, actually, Blood Moon Haste acts as, again, like I mentioned before, the anchor. And even though there's a K-Ron here, even though there's an ML Politis here, as you can see through a little bit of the clip, the S3 goes off on the Rimuru, which activates the Politis. The Politis doesn't even end up taking the turn, but just because the damage is already done here, the Karina S3 is kind of not that important. He does end up activating, or he does end up killing someone here with the Rimuru, which is already, again, going to activate the Blood Moon Haste S3. Now, again, the Janua also gets to kill the Rimuru here, but unlike in other scenarios where if you saw this position right here, you would think to yourself, oh my god, he is absolutely dead. Like, it's just, you know, he's got K-Ron, he's got ML Politis, he's got Karina. The ML Haste here is already putting him miles ahead in terms of, I guess in terms of being ahead, or in terms of the advantage of the battle. As you can see here, the S3 literally just one-shots the Karina. Right, let me play that again for you. So, it's the Blood Moon Haste in a cleave team. And she's just dead. Like, and from this point, of course, like, things look a little bit dicey. Of course, you have K-Ron doing K-Ron things. But actually, even with all the RNG and all the bad RNG that you could possibly imagine, K-Ron is never ever pretty much going to kill a 25,000 HP Blood Moon Haste. And as you can imagine, it ends up being a victory for the Blood Moon Haste. So again, I kind of skipped through around, and you could kind of see why Blood Moon Haste as an anchor is kind of strong, because again, even if you kill the Cleave Anchor's team, it's not like you're resetting the Blood, you know, it's not like you're resetting Pavel, it's not like you're resetting Politis, it's not like you're resetting the Janua, right? So long as you're able to deal with the things that kind of kill the rest of your team, right, you could just revive them with Blood Moon Haste. Like, this is a pretty ridiculous game in all honesty, because it's a Cleave ML Haste game. But in case you weren't sold on this, I do also have a game involving that Dealer Ray, or involving Blood Moon Haste, but this time in a slower-ish composition. This time around, the point of the team was to anti-cleave, and you may also be wondering to yourself, is Blood Moon Haste pivotable? If you play, like, you know, if you're playing Blood Moon Haste to kind of play standard, can you still survive if someone decides to play, I don't know, cleave? And the answer is also yes. Now, again, this team looks absolutely stacked, but in my opinion, I think whether or not you consider Armin to be super strong or weak is kind of up to you. But as you can see here, he's got a mid, he's got the Vildred, and look, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to push up the Blood Moon Haste here. Blood Moon Haste is fully stacked. She's got the attack buff, she's got the C damage buff, she's got the pretty much everything you could ask for from a Blood Moon Haste. Or for a Bloodblade Karen, I apologize, I keep mixing up the name. And it does no damage. That did 5,000 damage to the Blood Moon Haste. Like, I cannot even imagine, like, what you would do into a cleave team when you're fighting with Blood Moon Haste. Or I don't know what you would do as a cleaver if you're fighting into Blood Moon Haste if you're not already taking him. Just because, like, they're going to respawn with a bunch of barriers, like, no matter what you're doing here. And as you can imagine, the Blood Moon Haste is literally just going to... Oh, by the way, this is an insane showcase. He just S1s... And on the proc, he just kills the Bloodblade Karen. That's 8,000 damage on a 25k HP character that revives the entire team and also provides like a 30% HP barrier. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little bit ridiculous. And it's not even like he had like his buff or anything. Like, it's not like an S3. It was literally just an S1 and the Bloodblade Karen died. Now, again, to be clear, I get it. He had to strip, and, you know, maybe you don't or aren't always guaranteed to strip here. But I do think that in terms of value here, and of course the game just ended up ending here because, I mean, he's just getting cleaved. I think that Blood Moon Haste has absolutely ridiculous value. Again, To be clear, I don't think that you need the most incredible gear to make him work, but through everything that I've shown you so far, I think his buff was crazy. I think he's got one of the most versatile kits in the game now because you can pivot out of anything. You can play him with Cleave if you want to use him in Arena or Guild War to save your Spectre Tenebria or something, or make sure that your Aiden or your Janua doesn't die. Feel free to do so. But in any case, guys, I think that Blood Moon Haste is one of the most ridiculous characters from the balance patch. People were a little bit hesitant, I think, to say whether or not he was going to be good or not because we had to see his multipliers. But now that we've seen it, wow. Just wow. In any case, though, guys, that's going to be it for this pretty straightforward showcase. I apologize. If you want to skip around through things, I should probably say that at the beginning of every video. Feel free to skip through. I will have the timestamps for everything, so if you just want to see builds, if you want to see analysis of the games or any of the matches that we have, feel free to do so. But thank you again for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this format, the more in-depth kind of perspective that I've given here, make sure to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. Thank you again for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to check out my main channel and also, of course, subscribe to this channel. Turn on the notification bell, so comment, like, all that good stuff. Thanks again for watching, though, guys. Let me know if you like this format, if you like this separation of things. Again, I will be posting more gacha-related stuff that isn't just this, including stuff like Wuthering Waves, Cast Zero Nightmare, etc. on this channel. So stay tuned. I'll see you on the next one. Good night.